When I was binge eating, I would sometimes eat to the point where I could hardly breathe. I knew it was harming my mental health. I knew it was harming my physical health. I knew this problem was taking over my life. And I really thought that I should be able to stop this behavior. And the fact that I couldn't, I blamed myself for. I hated the fact that I did it, and I felt like I was really weak. It did make sense to me, this idea that if I truly loved myself, surely I wouldn't do this to myself. If I respected my body, I wouldn't treat my body this way. So following that logic, it then looks like, well, if we loved ourselves more, maybe we wouldn't binge eat. However, I think there's more to it than that. I don't think it's the absence of self-love that leads to this behavior, but rather it's the absence of safety. Now, self-love can create a kind of safety. So maybe people who love themselves more or have a better relationship with themselves are more likely to feel safer and less likely to turn to food, at least in the compulsive way that somebody who binge eats might. And now Ottie's just jumped into frame and she's going to ruin my edit. But rather than this idea of binge eating is a type of self-punishment, it's probably more like soothing, safety-seeking behavior instead. It feels punishing. I get it. The amount of times I've thought, I feel so bad, I might as well feel worse. I felt so miserable that actually sometimes I think it was about, if I can make myself feel bad enough, maybe I'll actually stop this behavior. If I just feel sick enough, ill enough from binging, that will be enough of a deterrent to stop me from doing it again. Now, I don't think it's about you have to love yourself, because if you can't love yourself, you won't be able to stop binging. But I do believe that you do need to figure out how to stop shaming yourself, because shame is so corrosive to our very sense of self and to our beliefs about ourselves, about what we deserve and what we believe we're capable of. If we believe we're not capable and we're not deserving, we won't be able to do or make the changes that we want to make. It got to the point as my problem continued that I had so much shame about myself and about my behavior that I didn't want to be with myself. I didn't want to be in my own body, which of course did make the problem worse, because then food started becoming more and more a means of escaping myself. I needed to numb from the pain of binge eating itself. So this is how it can spiral. But when I think about, did my behavior initially start from shame? Was my binging triggered by shame in the beginning? I don't think so. The most common triggers for binge eating are a reaction to restriction or trying to over-control your food. And then the other reason is for some kind of self-regulation. So sometimes we might call that emotional eating. And I'm not a big fan of the word comfort eating, for example, because I think it doesn't really speak to what it is, to how compulsive and how strong those urges can be to use food in order to feel okay. But then there's often a backlash because the food is trying to help you self-regulate and feel okay, but then the judgment and the shame that comes in afterwards just dysregulates you again. This is why I go on about what we sometimes think of as the soft subjects, the soft approach to this, which is about compassion. We have this word love, and we think of self-love. The word love in English, I think, is such a problematic word because it covers such a range that it's almost lost meaning or potency. We could say, I love being outside, and that just means I enjoy being outside. Or we could say, I love my child, and that is a much deeper bonded love. Love is a complex concept, and we narrow it down into a 4-letter word. Compassion, to me, is a kind of love. Compassion is a type of love. One of the greatest gifts you can offer to another person is compassion. And I don't mean sympathy. I don't mean feeling sorry for them. But compassion, it recognizes the humanness of us, the fact that we have challenges, the fact that we can be inconsistent and we can get stuck in cycles. Compassion is like a generous attitude towards those times and those situations where we feel like we're not showing up in the way that we want to show up. And it doesn't always have to look gentle. Kristen Neff defines the difference between fierce compassion and gentle or nurturing compassion. And the fierce compassion, that is the action-oriented bit. Compassion is not just there, I understand. Compassion allows for all feelings. It allows for the disappointment. So if I don't show up in the way that I want to show up, or I do something that's against my values, feeling disappointed in myself is quite an appropriate response, quite a healthy response, actually. And hopefully that disappointment can inform what I learn from it, what my next step might be. Is there anything that I need to correct? However, if I let myself down, or I hurt somebody else, or I do something that's against my values, and I tumble into shame and self-loathing, I'm not going to be able to learn the lessons that I need to learn. I'm not going to be able to self-correct. So back to the idea in this video, is it self-love that we need in order to recover? No, I think it's compassion. But it's also learning how to use compassion as a motivator too. Now, when I say, most people are not actually binging to punish themselves, I know that there are going to be some of you potentially who that really is your experience. And you think in your mind, it really is about punishing yourself. And that can be the case. But the punishment of yourself is a form of trying to self-correct. It's like I did something bad, or I am bad, and I deserve punishment for that. And punishment is a way of trying to balance the scales of justice. It can be a way of trying to absolve ourselves of all our misdemeanors and all the things that we've done wrong. And so people who get in a loop of self-punishment, there's like a story that there's a debt to be paid. And in the punishment, at some point, you will have paid off the debt, and then you will be allowed to feel better. This is why we need compassion, and it's also why we need curiosity over condemnation. Yes, we sometimes behave in ways we do not understand. And yes, we sometimes do things and make choices when there's another voice in our head that is trying to tell us that that is not the way to go, and we ignore it. But to learn and grow and evolve as human beings, we need to learn how to self-correct. And we need a compassionate, allied voice in our head to be able to do that. I'm so passionate about this topic and this aspect of recovery because I think it's so crucial for people. So much so that I am running an in-person workshop on it. So if you want to come and join me in person and other people that are trying to take this compassionate approach to recovery, but maybe you feel a bit fed up with this whole concept of if you're just nicer to yourself, you will somehow improve, and that's just not your experience, then come and join me. I will pop a link below. Many of you know I'm trying to do more in-person things because I really believe in the power of connection, especially when it comes to dismantling shame, because it creates an actual shift in perspective once you start embodying these things. And sometimes the healing can actually begin only when you realize that you are not your own enemy. Anyway, I will leave it there for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.